And for more on the Syria ceasefire, we're joined now by Kamran Bokhari. He's a Middle East and South Asia specialist at the University of Ottawa. He's a frequent guest on our show. First of all, your reaction?
I don't have a reaction. This is something that I don't think is significant. I'm not holding my breath to it. Even those who forged the deal are very skeptical. If you look at their language, Secretary Kerry saying this is, a cessation of hostilities, which means by definition that hostilities can erupt at any point in time. They've given 7 days to implement it. There's just so much, reason and imperatives on all sides to continue the fighting. Okay, maybe we'll have a few days of respite, maybe a few weeks. Some humanitarian aid goes in, but we go back to the war.
So there have been so many failed efforts before this announcement. You suspect this is going to be much the same?
I do. I mean, if you look at the imperatives of every side, do you think that those who got hit and very badly by the Russian-supported onslaught on Aleppo and Idlib and other areas, I'm talking about the Syrian rebels, are they going to just accept that and say, okay, we'll accept a ceasefire after losing territory? They're backed by the Saudis, who don't want to quit this fight. The other side sees itself, gaining momentum, meaning the Russians and the Iranians, and then Jabhat al-Nusra, is part and parcel of the rebel landscape, as one of your commentators pointed out. It's an ally of Ahrar al-Sham, and Ahrar al-Sham is backed by the Saudis. So I just don't know how this could be a serious breakthrough.
The Saudis today talking about putting ground forces on the ground. Do you think that this may have been perhaps the impetus for this, that perhaps there are just too many players on the ground there and they needed to kind of bring a halt to things?
I don't take that Saudi threat, seriously. If the Saudis had troops, they wouldn't be asking the Egyptians, the Turks, and the Pakistanis to come and help them in Yemen. They would not have a quagmire on their southern border. They just simply don't have the troops. I think that's more, rhetoric.
It's just bluster. Well, let me ask you about this. Possible scenarios moving forward. One that seems very unlikely, national reconciliation. Others, possible victory by the Assad forces. Some were saying that the rebels were kind of on their heels. The Assad forces, backed by the Russians, doing very well. And then, of course, the prospect that was put out there today, a possible major war involving global powers. I mean, what do we see as the future, do you think?
I think the biggest point that is being missed here is that the Americans and the Russians are quietly on the same page as regards to what's happening. Why do I say that? Because the United States does not want to see the Assad regime fall. It is too costly for the United States to come out and openly support the Assad regime. The Russians doing that is actually lending help to the Americans, who are more interested in neutralizing the Islamic State, and therefore I don't see, a global war or world war, whatever. I think there's a clear alignment of interest between the United States and Russia, and of course, by extension, Iran.
So what happens next?
I think more of the same. I think there'll be efforts to continue to have cessation of hostilities, ceasefires. The talks will go on. Meanwhile, the war will go on in a complex way. Whether it's against ISIS, whether it's against the Assad regime, the Russians are going to get involved. I think the thing to watch for, and what is really going to be could be a game changer, is what does Turkey do? This is on Turkey's southern flank. And therefore, they can't allow this to continue. President Erdogan today said that Turkish patience is wearing thin, and that to me sounded very ominous. So we need to watch and see if Turkey decides to send in troops into Syria.
And the other question, of course, the humanitarian aid piece of this. Will the aid be able to get there? Allah Ibrahim feels like it will.
I think there's an interest that the aid should get there. I think that much I have more hope for, but the question is how long? Like I said, it doesn't take long for the cessation hostilities to end. All it needs is for one side to start shooting, and then everybody else joins in. So, this is really fragile, very fluid. The more days go by without fighting, the better it is for the humanitarian aid, because in the end, there will be more fighting. I'd be really surprised if there wasn't any fighting.
Okay. Kamran Bokhari joining us from Ottawa. Thanks so much.